What's up, everybody? This is Kevin Wilson with the BMX Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Today I have a very special guest, Jay Oakes from BMX Breakthrough. Jay has, if anybody's watched any of Jay's material on YouTube and his podcast, are you on anything else or are you just on YouTube?
Yeah, we're on YouTube and then on all the podcast streaming sites, Spotify, Apple. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you put much more effort into your podcast than I do.
Well, I don't know. I can tell you how. It's incredibly easy, surprisingly easy, probably.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll get your referral or your advice on that. But Jay, I appreciate you coming on. I've been watching some of your stuff recently, and I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. When for the audience out there, I had sent Jay a text probably, I don't know, a month, 2 months ago, saying, dude, you got to come on. I want to talk to you. And I guess it took Jay a couple minutes to get back with me, and I got pissed off. So I unsubscribed to your channel, but I just subscribed again, bro. So I apologize. But I appreciate it, man. So if anybody doesn't know who Jay is, Jay runs the BMX Breakthrough, as I've already advised. And at the end of this, at the end of the video, we'll give a shout out again, and I will link his podcast YouTube link in the description of this video. But Jay, appreciate it. You're my main question that I've been wondering about is I've watched several of your videos, and you're quite younger than I am, but yet it looks like you're probably just as big a fan of vintage BMX as I am.
Well, I try to be. I really enjoy learning about where things come from, and so going into BMX is we have BMX now, and we had BMX when I first started racing, which was late 90s, but the origination of it was so far before that. And and in reality, not that many years before, but it was a generation before. And so being able to learn about where the sport came from, I think it's so important to know and understand history. I wasn't a fan of history when I was a kid, but as I've gotten older, I've had more appreciation for history in and of itself. And so being able to even dive into the history of BMX and be able to find a little bit more appreciation and understanding about the evolution of the sport is just really intriguing to me.
Nice, dude. So is your heart with mid school, obviously, right? Or is it with old school? I don't know. What is it?
Oh, I would say
current. I think you're involved currently, so it could be any school.
Yeah, I think. Okay, well, so to answer that, it's a little bit longer of an answer, but
have that. We got all night.
Okay, so I got into BMX in the mid-school era, and so those were the mid-school pros were people that I looked up to, Bubba Harris and John Purse, and looked up to them, admired their riding. I remember watching Clarence Perry, and he obviously he transitioned over a few different generations there and still races to this day. But I remember watching a lot of the Redline guys and really being in awe of them. And so when I got into the sport, I really enjoyed what it had to offer. It was fun. I got to ride my bike and spend time with my friends and travel around. But now as I'm in it, I started to look back at the mid-school days and go, man, there was something about that very similar to the way that the old school guys talk about, wow, there was something to that. There was, back in the day. And one of the really cool conversations that I had with Bill Ryan, Supercross, was that he was, him and I were talking, and he interrupted somebody at one point, maybe during a podcast or something, and he goes, hold on, right now, is this kid's back in the day? And so I have a huge appreciation for all of it and what it offers. And to be honest, the one thing that I was less fond of in racing was the transfer system. And I actually just posted a video about it today, because changing in 2025 is that motos of 4 to 8 riders, or classes of 4 to 8 riders, are going back to total points. And I just had so much value to kids, because I watched my younger kids and I've seen people out on the track that aren't super competitive. They just want to go out for fun. And then they'd get reduced down to two motos because making the main, and that got reduced even from a 3-moto transfer system. And so anyway, but all that to say, I really enjoyed mid school, but I'm having so much fun in it right now because I get to hang out with my kids. I get to watch them ride, watch them improve. And then the old school stuff, my kids, their favorite event of the year is Dirty Fest. And so I don't know that I could say that I have a favorite, but what I enjoy the most about BMX is what it offers to kids and families and riders alike.
Dude, you're much more deep than I am, dude. I'm in it for the fun. I'm in it for the bikes. I'm in it for the I'm in it for the memories. I mean, you've thought about this answer a lot, dude. I can tell, and you're much deeper than I am, and I can appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. I've definitely put some thought into it, and there's definitely some things that caught my attention after my 20-year hiatus in the sport and drew me back in and have kept me
Right.
hanging on to the sport. So
Did you mention that your dad raced, and that's how that's how you were exposed to it? Is that
Yeah.
what you said? I can't remember.
Yeah, so he started racing. He and I both grew up in Northwest Washington, and just between Seattle and Canada. And he started racing when he was a teenager and started going down to a track in Woodinville, Washington, and that was where he got into racing. And then he raced for a few years, and he got out of it, and then came back into it when I was 6, 7 is when we started going to gate practice. And so anyway, we started riding. We raced for about 5 years or so, and then we got out of it. Just a series of events, and we ended up going to mountain biking and riding in skate parks, and just we weren't at the track anymore. And so yeah, we took 20 years away. But yeah, he races again now, because when I got back into it, it was kind of because he was back at the track, and I got to bring my kids out. So yeah, now there's 3 generations of Oaks out on the track.
That's very cool, dude. Did your father push you towards BMX, or was it totally your decision when you were a kid?
No, there was never any push. I think he always enjoyed it, but he always kind of let us do what we do, which was really, and I add now, because obviously within the sport and within any sport, there's parents that are trying to live vicariously through their kids. But no, he really enjoyed riding bikes. And so he would bring us to the track. But I think as soon as we decided not to, and I still feel a little bit guilty about this, because for would it have been my 11th birthday, he got me a brand new bike. It would have been an Expert. Redline made a Redline Proline Expert LE maybe, and got me a brand new bike to ride because I'd outgrown the Junior, and that was the exact time I think I raced on it 2 or 3 times, and that's when I decided to stop racing. But no, there was never any push. He never made me feel bad about it. He just said, "Okay, sounds good."
Were you fast, or were you moto, Phil? What was your competency level when you were a kid?
I'm not, let's see. I think I was decent. I was fairly fast. But I was a like 9, 10 expert, when I was racing. And so, we'd go between 3, sometimes 4 different tracks within our local area. And I don't ever really remember, racing at the national. I don't never won national, but around our local area, there was another guy and I that would kind of go back and forth between winning every week. So his name was Tyler Johnson, and we would go back and forth, and he was the guy to beat. So
nice, dude. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if I'm still good or not. But for those out there, I'm going to keep trudging along. There's been times where my guest has broken up, on my end, but it was fine on YouTube, so I'm going to keep going. But anyways, dude, nice, dude. So you quit and then you came back after you had kids. Is that basically what the story was?
I decided to get them, introduce them into it, and once they started falling in love with it, then I ended up falling back in love with it and realizing how cool of a sport it really was and how much I had missed it.
Where does the old school admiration come into play?
Ooh, I think, well, to be honest, I think the old school admiration started very recently, and I remember seeing my dad's bikes in the garage, and he has some buckets with parts in them and stuff, but it was really the fact that I went to, it would have been Frogtown, year 2 of Frogtown that I went to with my dad. Super fun and really enjoyed that. And then let's see, went to Dirty Fest and just continuing to meet people. And it would have been the BMX Society show in Carson, California, June, I think, 4th of 22, where I went to like my first event, and where I realized that I not only really enjoyed it, but I also started noticing the missing piece of the mid-school era at shows like. And so anyway, it was kind of from there as I was like, okay, what do I have to do about this to improve this and make it better for everybody? So
nice. So does your dad still have the buckets of parts in his garage?
Oh yeah. He's got an old he's got a Diamondback, and I haven't seen it in a really long time, so I don't even remember what it is. But I remember it was the generation that Harry Leary rode. It would have been that early. It was the chrome frame with the blue accents on it, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of the frame right now.
A Senior Pro?
No, it would have been no, man. Now I feel bad. I'm not even remembering exactly what it was, but
not the turbo.
It wasn't the turbo. No, it was but that's what he wanted. But he ended up building up this bike, and it was an absolutely beautiful build. And so one of these days we'll actually bust it out of the boxes and get it restored and brought back to life. But anyway, that's what I remember looking at. And there's a couple of older mongoose frames and things. There's an old Boss 20-inch and a couple things that haven't been ridden, but they definitely deserve to be pulled out at some point and built up.
Nice, dude. What do you have any fetishes? What's your favorite? What gets you turned on when you're going to the bike shows or the bike show at Dirty Fest? What gets you turned on, bro?
Ooh, so I think I have really enjoyed my Boss Cruiser. So I've got an early 80s Boss Cruiser, and so that has kind of helped me to enjoy and admire some of those other Boss builds and the craftsmanship of those frames. So I've enjoyed those. But I really like the mid-school stuff when it's there. And there's a couple of guys that are more and more bringing mid-school into the game. I enjoy seeing the bikes that I wanted to race when I was a kid. I think some of it, I have a little bit of a skewed perspective too, because the bikes that I admired more than anything growing up was my mentor and childhood hero. His name was Todd Taylor, and he was just in Northwest Washington, local legend, and looked up to him. And I actually did an interview with him to talk about it, but looked up to him. He just treated me like a friend. He treated me like someone that was on the track, even though he was the same age as my dad. I never saw that there was an age difference between the two of us. But I always admired him. And so in that would have been 99. He had identical built 20 and 24 GT Speed Series, and they were absolutely beautiful. Those polished frames and the WD-40 graphics, and that was just something that caught my eye every time. And the 20-inch was built up with spin wheels, so that was really the only difference. But they had piston stems, and they had redline flight cranks, and the GT bars, and Absolutely. And the Cell Italia glitter seats and just beautiful bikes. And anyway, so then a couple of years ago, he was actually moving, and I having the opportunity to buy those bikes from him. And so I ended up getting both of them. So the bikes that I just would drool over as a kid, they now sit in my garage, which is super cool. So it skews my perspective a little bit because I go to shows and I see some of these bikes, but the story that mine have attached to them kind of supersedes sometimes the other bikes that I see, even though I even though I nerd out a little bit.
Right. Is that but you did you take them to Dirty Fest and race, or you don't race those? Those are closet queens.
No, so I've raced the 20. No, I raced the 20 and 24. The 20, I put the spoked wheels back on for year 2 of Frogtown. I actually raced it in the modern class, but then the cruiser I raced in the one of the vintage or mid-school classes. And so I've raced both of those, and then they haven't been to Dirty Fest yet, just because every year I've run out of room to get them there. But anyway, they do get raced. I did race the 20-inch Speed Series with the spin wheels this last year at the Vintage Nationals, which is it was raced on the modern track here in Tulsa at Hardesty. So there wasn't much vintage about it, but I did end up racing the bike with spin wheels, and it was actually really fun. So
I've never ridden spin wheels. Are they good? I mean, do you prefer the spokes, or how they ride?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I was really enjoying the way that they rode. I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of flex. Most of last year, I threw some Skyway Megs onto 24-inch and Racing RA24, and I raced them for probably, I don't know, 3/4 of the year. And I started noticing a ton of flex, especially in asphalt corners where obviously the corner is incredibly stiff, and I would get a lot of flex and pop. But when it came to the spin wheels, even on the Hardesty track, which is entirely glued, and I don't know what those corners are. They're probably concrete or something. But anyway, no, I actually felt like there wasn't a whole lot of flex. So I would love to try them, but I know that I would probably become a little bit apprehensive because I'm not really too fond of the idea of a wheel snapping and me hitting the ground because of a failed wheel. So the fact that they've been sitting for 20 years along with the Answer Carbo Pro fork, I'm not sure how long that or how well that glue has held up. So I really would love to try them a little bit more, but what I did ride of them, I really enjoyed them.
My brother worked for GT during that time. He was the product manager for Powerlight, Dyno, and a couple other things. And I remember him coming home one day going, "Dude, we've got these new wheels coming out, these spin wheels, man." He was talking that they're going to be all the rage for a while. But I've never actually owned a pair or rode a pair. I rode tough wheels, and I know I don't like tough wheels.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I was having problems with tubes blowing off of the rim, tires blowing off the rim, and the tube blown out. And I actually heard this last year at Dirty Fest. I was talking to Barry Nilsson, who said that the key to solving that problem on a 20-inch is that you run a 16-inch tube, and it brings it in, which I had never heard before, and I didn't have any problems with those tubes yet. So I thought I'd leave them until they cause a problem.
Yeah. Whoever comes on and watches this, can you guys please comment to see if either one of us are breaking up? Anyway, I got your audio, but your video keeps messing up. And
interesting.
Every one of my videos has something wrong with it, man. This is terrible. But anyways, so I apologize ahead of time. If it looks like hell, I'll take the video down, dude, and we'll go forward. But sometimes it looks like it's bad, and then I watch the final product, and it's like, oh, it was fine the whole time. So anyways, dude, so yeah, when I owned a bike shop for a while, and I owned a bike shop on a budget, and I couldn't afford to buy all the size tubes, so I would put 18-inch tubes in a 20-inch wheel all the time, dude. So yeah, they can be stretched pretty good sometimes.
Just make do with what you got.
Yeah, nice, dude. Yeah, so that's pretty cool, dude. That I think that's cool that you kind of straddle the line a little bit between old school and mid school, well, and new school too, because it's not very often that guys can relate to all three generations, right? Like my kids ride street, or they rode street when they were a little bit younger, but I owned a bike shop, and it was always kind of cool where I would go out to the skate park, and I'd be in my late 40s, and I'd be doing tire tap 360s with my kids, and they were like, "Oh, dude, your dad can ride, man. That's pretty cool." But that's
That's
cool,
awesome.
dude. So was your dad fast? Was your dad famous or whatever? Or were you just a
No,
normal guy?
no, he was just a normal guy. I think one of the things that I love about riding with my dad now is that, and I've watched, is that he was never super fast, never super competitive. And what was it last year? End 23, we were actually up in Northwest Washington, and it was the last race. Was that be December 15th of 23, the last race of the season, and my dad got his 10th win to jump from novice to intermediate, and so he had been novice all his days of racing as a teenager, his days of racing when I was younger, and then made it up to intermediate. But he just loves being out on the track. He doesn't care how he does. He just has a really good time riding his bike.
How old your dad? How old was your dad?
What is he? 56? Yeah.
You're my age, dude. Damn.
So, so yeah, but I will say, and he'll probably love this, is that was it we were talking to Toby Henderson, and the first time that I had been talking to Toby for a while, and then when I introduced my dad to him at Frogtown, is he goes, "Wait, that's your dad? I thought that was your brother." And so then he's consistently made jokes about that. Anyway, yeah,
wow, that's cool.
my dad's pretty young looking.
What did okay? So you have obviously we're talking because you have your own podcast, and I'm dying to hear about it. What made you decide one day wake up and say, you know what, I want to start a podcast? Because I'm sure there's probably 10,000 guys out there that think, man, I want to do a podcast too. What made you decide to do it? And yeah, what made you? I'll tell you why I decided to do it, but what motivated you to do it?
Well, entirely for the fame. I just, there's in the money. I mean, I just looked at how niche could I go, and how much money could we make, and that's what I chose. So,
I hear you, dude. Yeah, I know you're being sarcastic.
Yeah, since we're both just balling because of our BMX podcast.
Yeah.
It was entirely because of what I found, what I saw within the sport. So it kicked off because of that BMX Society show in Carson, and it was realizing, okay, there are not as many people here, or as many mid-school people represented. It was I would say, the overarching idea of BMX break, really trying to help grow and promote the tracks and help tracks to reach new riders is what was the encompassing idea. And then from there, I thought, well, okay, the podcast is going to be the means to draw attention and publicity to what we're doing. And so I had this big vision, this idea of what I wanted to be able to achieve within the sport and helping tracks, which has worked, which has happened. But it's entirely been a result of the podcast and moving forward with that. So to answer your question, I started the podcast as a way to connect with more people, have more conversations, hopefully lean on their credibility and their backing. And then in addition, probably, find a little bit more of a platform to bring in some money and needs for the tracks that we want to help and support.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about the BMX Breakthrough Initiative. Is that what you call it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
The initiative. Yeah. I want to talk about that later on before we close out. But yeah, dude. So so obviously you didn't do it for the money. I started because have you ever there's this YouTube channel called VinWiki. Have you ever heard of this VinWiki channel?
I don't think so.
Okay, so this guy tells car stories. So this guy has all of his friends come on to tell car stories about Lamborghinis and Ferraris and shit. And I was watching this guy one day, and I'm all, dude, I would love to bring my friends on, just like this guy is, and have them tell BMX stories about, us doing all the antics that we used to do when we were growing up on a BMX bike. And I had this idea to start this channel, and it turns out that none of my friends wanted to talk about BMX with me, or tell stories. And I was surprised, because that's one thing that I found, that I thought that everybody was like me. I thought everybody wanted to talk BMX and share their stories. And I don't know what you found, but I found that not everybody wants to share their stories, dude. Have you found the same thing?
Yeah, there are definitely some times where people are a little bit more reserved, but I don't know. I guess in most of the conversations that I had, I guess the guests that I've brought onto my show, they haven't been quite as reserved, but people sometimes are a little. I don't know. I found that a couple of times, but maybe that has not been my experience quite as much as it has been yours.
Yeah. So when I started, so that was my initial idea. My friends blew me. They said, I have no, my friends, family, nobody had any interest in coming on and telling stories. So then I had to shift to doing like a channel, like finding bikes, buying bikes, that type of thing, and sharing my bikes. And then I ran up against guys like a Rad BMX build that were dropping, $15,000 on a build, and I'm like, I'm not going to drop 15 grand on a bike. There's no way, or whatever he called, that guy does, good. That was a great interview, by that. I like that episode. That's my favorite one of yours.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. He, that guy's, I've always wondered about that guy, and that was very intuitive. What the way he was talking and stuff like that. I dug what he was saying, but I couldn't relate, I couldn't compete with guys like that. So I go, you know what? I'm just gonna have to nut up and email somebody and say, dude, I want to talk to you about BMX. Would you talk to me? And the first guy that I nutted up with, the first guy was Mike Moran. Well, okay, I nutted up with a friend that I went to high school with. He finally said, okay, fine, I'll talk to you. After that, it was Mike Miranda. I reached out to Mike Miranda because my brother knew him from working at GT when Mike Miranda was at GT and so forth. So I kind of reached out to him, and I name dropped my brother. And this is before the first Dirty Fest. And I'm like, hey, could you talk to me? I'll pump Dirty Fest. And he goes, fine, okay, I'll do it. He was very gracious. And he came on, and then I just started emailing people off of my friends list. I don't know how you get your people, dude, because you seem to know everybody. I didn't know anybody, dude. I was going in raw. I mean, I was texting you guys raw, like, hey, by the way, I'm a nobody. I don't know anybody. Will you please come and talk BMX with me? And I got, I saw that you interviewed Mike Caruth. I interviewed Mike Caruth too. Very cool guy. But I forgot what my point was. That's what happened to me, where I started doing this, and then I started getting a little bit of traction. But I think that you were talking with, what's the guy from Rad BMX build? What's his name?
Sean Nichols.
Sean Nichols. So I think you were talking to Sean about I think Sean was talking about he's thought about giving up all the time, and did forget this YouTube thing. Dude, I was the same way, dude. I gave up for like a year, dude. I was like, I had like, I don't know, 25 subscribers. And I go, this is insane. I'm beating my head against the wall, dude. I'm not doing this anymore. And so I gave up for like almost a year. I didn't even do anything. And my buddy came to me and goes, one of my good friends that I raced with, he goes, dude, your videos are terrible, dude. I'm like, what? He goes, your videos are terrible. And I go, you know what? F you, man. I'm coming back, dude. So I came back, and then I started doing a whole different format a little bit. I started tweaking stuff. And but it's still rough, bro. It's still rough. And when I reach out to people, reaching out, that's what I was talking about. Reaching out to people, man. That's the best that you can hope for is for them not to respond. But okay, that, because I think I talked to you about this on the phone, where, I mean, you've interviewed some top level guys, man, and being a mid school guy talking to old schools like Oz and Miranda and John Cruz. How does that whole thing transpire? Because I know I go raw. I text him, Messenger, can you come on? I'm sure that you meet him at functions, Dirty Fest, the Hall of Fame. Is that how you could kind of work your way in? You must be a much better networker than me. I want to hear how you do it.
So, well, I mean, it's a tough question because even since we talked on the phone, as I've thought about it, and I'm like, I legitimately am not entirely sure. And to say that, I think I'm really bad at analyzing myself and some of my systems. So, for example, I have a friend who like wanted to learn how to go to ride faster mountain biking, and get through berms faster. And he's like analyzing and he's like, I watched a video and this is what you have to do with your body. And I'm like, I've literally never thought about that. I just go. And in the same way, I don't know. I talk to people. So my dad had gone to some of these old school events and had met some people, and he knew quite a few. So he introduced me to a lot of people that I actually ended up meeting at some of those events. And I would say that one of the things that I intentionally do is I love helping out and I love being of value. And so I'll ask people if I can help with setup or tear down or whatever that is, as well. And that has gotten me, I mean, never in a manipulative way to try and get people's attention. I just legitimately enjoy doing that. And so I think I had just built relationship. Let's see, it would have been year 2 at year 2 at Frogtown and year 1 at Dirty Fest. And those were the 2 introductory years. And then I would see people throughout the year at some of the different modern races, obviously not so much the old school guys, but the new school guys. And that's where I would have conversations with them. And then I would just reach out to people and I would tell them, hey, this is the vision that I have for what BMX Breakthrough is all about. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Would you be willing to talk about BMX and how you are helping the sport? And I think maybe that was part of it, is that the people that I've talked to are people that are like actively investing in the sport and trying to make the sport a better place. And so, yeah, so that could be part of
it. Yeah, dude. The I like you're more of a, I like your style of interviewing. I like your style of dealing with your guests. I'm more of a little bit more brash and loud. You're a little more reserved. You're introspective. You listen more than I do. But I dig your style, dude, and your interview style is very cool. And I respect what you're doing over there. And so that's very cool, man. The I had a really good question I wanted to ask you, and I can't remember what it was. So when you go to about getting guests and dealing with guests and that type of thing, but are there any guests that surprise you, or any episodes? Now I know that for me, every person that I interview is like a child, where it's like, you know, if someone asks me who your favorite interview was, I say I like them all. But there are little nuggets of favorite moments in interviews from everybody. Now some more so than others. Are there any little nuggets of information or history or anything that really sparked your memory or sparked your interest that you think, look back and go, dude, that was very cool what that guy said or that girl said?
Yeah. So there's a few of them. Let's see. So Mike Carruth, Donnie Robinson was the first episode. Mike Carruth, I believe, was episode 5. And the two of them being able to talk about League and what they had created as a result of League, and for Donnie, what he continues to do year by year, season by season through League, that is absolutely incredible. So talking about that, him and I talking at Frogtown this last year, we had a great conversation about getting more riders in and the value of riders just being out on the track more and more and more.
See, you care, dude. You're it's admirable, dude. I give you props, and that's.
Oh. Well, thank you.
Care. I can see it, dude. You're not bullshit. Like I bullshit a little bit, right? But you're not bullshitting. But go ahead, man. Go ahead. Oh,
that's okay. No, and then Mike Carruth, that was a really cool one. One of the things that our conversation ended up leading to was attrition rate, and just the idea of, you know, if you have 7% of people, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but for a track, you know, my guess is that you're probably around that 5 to 10% attrition rate. Their families are moving away. They're getting out of the sport. They're not coming back for whatever reason. They're getting into other sports. And so the reality, because I come from a business consultant background, is I'm looking at that attrition rate of if you're not growing by anything more than that attrition rate, then you're effectively losing. Right. And so I thought that was really helpful, a really useful nugget of wisdom for track operators. I think it was episode 16 where I talked to, I believe that's it, where I talked to Sean Coleman, who's a track operator up in Northwest Washington on the peninsula. And they're a town of like 16,000 people up there. And they run a rider count almost every race of about 125, 130 riders, which is nearly 1% of the community. So that's pretty cool. Getting to talk to Miss Kitty, who's been racing since is it 89, that she's been around and still racing out. Actually, I'll probably get to see her in Rockford, Illinois, Rockford Indoor, up in Illinois this coming winter and in the next couple of months. So that's cool. So yeah, and then let's see, other conversations. Being able to talk to Bob Osborne was pretty surreal, and really fun. Him and I recorded another episode that's coming out in a few weeks. But we talked, and he went through and he talked about the entire history of BMX. It's really cool. He kind of went through, he took a ton of notes, brought those notes into the conversation. So being able to hear some of those firsthand experiences with the founders of the sport and his early conversations with Scott Breithopt, and like absolutely fun. And then the episode that comes out 2 days from now on November 13th is with a current pro. Her name is Olivia Armstrong, and she's out of Bend, Oregon. And listening to the amount of excitement that she has for teaching young riders to ride, and the way that kids reach out to her and the way that parents reach out to her for even for remote coaching, and then she'll do video calls and coaching with her riders, and that's been really cool. So yeah, I could go through and I could give you nuggets of things that every single episode that really stood out to me. But I would say the easiest thing for that is I did a 1-year anniversary recap. It's episode 26. And I went through and I talked about that single thing from every episode that stood out. Oh, you did?
Okay. I haven't watched that one. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
So
that's
a really cool recap.
I need to do that, dude. That's a good idea.
So that was a fun way. You should. Yeah. It was a fun way to go back and highlight things and do kind of an episode on fast forward. And I don't have any problem talking. You probably don't either. I don't have any problem talking to myself for an hour.
Dude, that's funny that you said that. And before I want to talk to you about starting, about why I tell people about starting a podcast, but I think that you were very deep when you talk about talking to Kruth about the league and about attrition. I talked to him about models. I talked to him about partying, and when he came to there's our different interview styles, dude. I was talking to him about red line, pro lines, and getting his first bike, and you're talking to him about attrition rates, dude. That's a difference, dude.
And we need all of it because we have all those stories to tell. Right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So the first thing I started when I started recording myself, dude, it's like, you better get over being shy. You better be over looking fat or skinny or being absorbed. You better just get used to it, dude, because no one cares, dude. And so it's like, that was my first thing that I had to learn, was to not take myself too seriously and just to have fun, dude. So I tell people, a couple of people have talked to me about starting a podcast, and the first thing I tell them is, nobody cares about your podcast except for you. Period. End of story. Whatever people tell you, dude, I'll support you. Whatever. If that happens, great. But no one cares except for you. So just as long as you're putting out stuff that you think is good and you're having fun, do it and just put stuff out, and you'll figure it out, as it goes along. God forbid, I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet, but I've changed, I've altered, taken different paths and that type of thing. But I like your production. It seems like you put effort into it, more so effort than I have. So I like your studio there. Is that in your house?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's in my basement actually.
Oh, nice, dude. Nice.
Yeah, it works out pretty well.
Nice. So what's the BMX Breakthrough associate? What's that all about, dude? So if you could share it with people that they know what's going on.
Yeah, so BMX Breakthrough, we wanted to figure out a way that we could help and support tracks. So having worked with nonprofit organizations, which most tracks are, one of the biggest things that people, obviously you're looking for donors, you're looking for donors of time, you're looking for donors of money, you're looking for people that are going to donate to contribute to your track. And one of the biggest hurdles to that is that people say, well, what do you need? And somebody says, oh, well, we just anything that you want to give, or, hey, I want to help out. Where do you need help? Oh, well, anywhere that you can help out. And this is not track exclusive. This is other nonprofit organizations, and they don't have a determined list of where we need you. So Kevin, you come to me, say, hey, Jay, I want to help out with your track. What we've been trying to work with on track operators is having what are 3 things that you need financially, and 3 things working into 25 is that we're going to have 3 things that you need volunteer wise, so that you walk up to me and you say, Jay, I've got some time on Tuesday night to help out at the track. What do you need? Oh, I need someone that's a corner marshal in turn 1, 2 weeks or 2 races a month. I need someone that can be an announcer, 2 races a month. I need someone that can snack shack, 2 days a month. And then you go, oh, okay, well, I can fit into one of those. But if I say, no, I don't know, I could use you anywhere. What do you want to do? Then a lot of times people go, I don't know. And the conversation never comes up again. So same is true with financial needs. So what is it that you need? So we started trying to, I reached out this last year and I said, okay, in order to better serve the new rider community, what do you need? And they would come back with things like, we need 5 helmets. We need 10 track bikes. We need a new starting gate. And we would put a dollar amount to each of those things. And then we printed it out on a sheet and we handed those out at Dirty Fest. We put them in plastic sleeves and made them look, kind of like a comic book protector. And, we handed them out at Dirty Fest, and just a way that people could support tracks. And so one of the really cool stories that I got was, I was visiting Washington a couple months ago, and I went to one of the tracks, and she said, hey, what you're doing, it worked. And I said, wait, it worked, tell me more. And she goes, yeah, you did that, and then afterwards you posted on Instagram and you said these are the things that tracks need. And somebody came up to me and said, hey, do you I see you need a sound system. How much is that? And she said, well, it's $500. And he said, all right, here you go. And he hands her a check and said, go get it. And the reality is that we want to be a part of something, but we also want to be a part of solving a problem. We'd love to be the solution to a problem. And so if you need 5 track bikes, maybe I can give you 5 bikes. Maybe I can give you 1 bike. Maybe I can give you half of the price of a bike. But it's nice for an individual to be a part of that solution. And so anyway, so it all came from wanting to help tracks grow at the local level. So we don't really focus on nationals, big races. I really don't care that much about pushing. I try to actually steer people away from pushing kids towards, hey, you've been racing for 2 months now. You got to get to our state and our Gold Cup and a national and all that stuff. And
No.
It's like, no, it just burns the kids out. Even your question of, did your dad push you? What I try to encourage parents is that the difference is going to become when you are pushing your kid versus your kid is pushing you. And your kid pushing you and saying, Dad, I want to get to the track. Dad, I want to go out and race. I want to become pro. I want to get better. That's awesome. But when the parent is living vicariously and trying to, hey, you have to be better. You have to do this. That's when I think the breakdown comes in. That's when the burnout comes. And so really, I just want kids, what I'd say in my show a lot is, I want my kids in 20, 30 years to love riding their bike. I don't care if they're racing. I don't care if they're riding at the skate park. I don't care if they're on beach cruisers and riding around town. I want my kids to love their bike and to look back at the memories that we have on bikes and love that. So
you make me feel bad, dude.
Oh, don't feel bad.
No, you make me inspired. I want to go out and ride my bike.
Well, that's good. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to get at.
Well, dude, that's cool. So, how if someone wants to get involved and help you out, what's the process?
So right now we're actually in the process of redoing our website. So you can go to bmxbreakthrough.com and you can sign up for our email there. But also you can read just a little bit of kind of what our vision is. It needs to be redone. Reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. Both of those are just BMX Breakthrough. And that's the easiest way. My email is j@bmxbreakthrough.com. Really, I think there's a couple different levels of people that either want to volunteer, want to donate financially, or even just being a supporter and being an advocate for what we're doing. And so I think that people can go to their track. I don't have to be a part of it in any way, shape, or form. But if somebody wants to get involved with growing the sport of BMX, you can go to the track and you can go and find out, hey, what do you need? What do you need help with? No, what's a specific thing that you need help with? Right. Not vague, or what's a specific thing?
Yeah. We don't need any bikes. We need a starting gate. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Exactly. And so anyway, being able to connect with tracks that way. Yeah, we are looking forward towards 2025. We are really excited about what we're going to be able to put together. And so that will include talking to tracks about what your needs are, material needs, what your time needs are, and being able to just have those as examples and be able to hopefully encourage people to, get to the track and be able to help out. And, I can't volunteer my time, but I've got some money to hand out, or
right.
Whatever the case may be.
That's really cool. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question about guests. Do you I kind of like interviewing guys that don't have their own Wikipedia page. Do you find it interesting where you can learn more about somebody? Because like guys that don't have their own Wikipedia pages, they're like, there's more to unwrap. There's more layers to the story that you don't know about. And sometimes I drill down and I get little nuggets of bitchiness from stories that haven't been told yet. Do you get any of that when you interview somebody, or do you look at everybody do you have the all on the same wavelength? Have you noticed anything like that? Or do you everybody that do you ever interview people that aren't quite as famous as Oz or Miranda? Yeah.
And I think that, so I will say that I'm a terrible fanboy. And I have said this since, the first time that since the first time that I met certain people, the first time that I met Bob Osborne, it was cool. But I'm a terrible fanboy. And the reason is because what you did was cool, but I want to know who you are now. And I do want to know some of those stories. Maybe as we get to know each other, I want to know some of those stories. Where is it that you got this idea? And actually the upcoming interview with Oz, he talks about that. Where did this idea come from? What transpired in order to get you there? So I do enjoy knowing that history. But one of the things that I noticed at the Carson, California show is that you go to talk to some people and there's a level of being in fan mode or autograph mode. And people are it's almost like, well, you should know who I am. And it's not super common in the BMX world. It's more common with other celebrities and things. But what I started was that there are a lot of stories. You, for instance, you grew up with BMX Action magazines. You were able to look through those. I didn't have BMX Action. I was able to look at some of my dad's old magazines, but I didn't grow up with that. I had BMX Plus and I had Ride BMX and stuff that I was able to look at, but it wasn't. But some of these people that I'm seeing, they're not from the mid school era, and so I don't know some of their stories. And I did take a period of time away from the sport, and so there are things that I absolutely missed. And I don't have any problem looking goofy when I ask somebody something that everybody else in BMX might know, but I don't know. Um, but like I'll be to be completely honest, when I interviewed Donnie Robinson, I knew that he was on Powerlight, and then I got out of the sport, and I didn't even know that he rode for Hyper, and so I asked him in the interview, and one of my friends was like, "I heard you ask that," and I thought, "Oh, Jay," and I thought, I don't know, I don't have any problem with that. So back to your question of you asked about that interview process. Is I try to be a little bit more authentic. Like I really want it to be conversational, and I just want to find out what are those things that you've done. What are you doing for the sport? Let's talk a little bit about the history. What have you done for? How did you get the name that you have now? But the people that I talk to that aren't as well known, I try to draw out those stories that are a little bit more meaningful to me. Of no, this person's really making a difference in the sport, and making some huge headway in trying to get kids on bikes. Like there was an interview that I did with somebody that's not super well known in the bike industry, and his name is Connor Shaughnessy. And the reason he's not well known in the industry is because he hasn't been around the industry very long. So he runs a company, you can look it up, called Bicycle Thieves. And Bicycle Thieves is all about what is it? Overcoming the things that steal away the possibility of childhood biking. So he grew up playing team sports. He did not grow up racing BMX. He grew up riding with his parents a little bit around the neighborhood and having a bike. But what he saw was a decline in the number of kids that were at the park. And he started looking at statistically the number of kids at this year. And then that number started dropping down, and the price of milk started going up, and started looking at the things that are a possibility of keeping kids off of bikes. So what he does is he sells clothing, and then he gives a percentage of those proceeds to buy kids bikes. So if you look up Bicycle Thieves, he's got so many videos where he's handing kids and families bicycles. Sometimes it's adults too. And so in the bike industry, almost nobody knows who he is, but he's a really cool conversation because he came from completely outside of our sport and still sees a value for kids being on bikes.
Bitch, that sounds like Tony Hoffman. Have you heard of Tony Hoffman?
I don't think so. No.
He was a short story. He was from Central California. He got busted. He was a top level, like 17 amateur. He was probably in the late 90s. He was a top level rider. He made the cover of Pull magazine. Got hooked on opiates. Got busted for a home invasion. Went to prison for like 10 years. Got out and told his probation officer, "I'm going to be in the Olympics," and trained for the Olympics. He was on the verge of making the team. Blew out his knee. Became a coach. Became Brooke Crane's Olympic coach, and then she got her to the. I think she won the Olympics, or she did really good that year.
She medaled.
She medaled. Yeah. So this guy was her coach, and now he runs a foundation to help kids get on BMX bikes, and there's a whole different thing. But it was fascinating story. Tony Hoffman. I saw him on another podcast, a true crime podcast actually, and he was down. Wow. I'm all this guy's a BMXer, dude, and I pulled him up, and yeah, sure as shit, dude, he almost made the Olympic team really fast out of prison. I think he was in his like mid 30s or something crazy. Anyways, that reminded me of Tony
apparently
Hoffman.
I need to try and connect with him.
I've reached out to him once, and never responded. But you definitely have more of a more communication skills than I do.
we'll see how far I can get.
Yeah, there you go. If there was one person that you could sit down and interview, who would that be? Do you have such a list, or do you just want to talk to everybody?
Ooh, well, there are some people that I don't want to, that I'm not super interested in talking to, just because of the way that they like carry themselves, or the way that they kind of the vibe that they put off around kids, and newer riders. But I don't know that there's necessarily like a I don't know, that golden goose. I don't know that I've got that person that I'm chasing. I think I really enjoy.
Even if I was in your position and someone asked that question, I would think, I don't really want to answer this question because I don't want to ruin any future plan options. If I could actually interview them, I don't want to piss them off or make them feel like they're under the gun or they're being hunted.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, and I guess I hadn't entirely thought about that. I just don't know. I feel like I continue to meet people every time I go somewhere, and I continue to have awesome conversations. And they're people, actually, to answer your question, no. And there might be some people there are people that I want to have conversations with, but some of the coolest conversations have come from people that I didn't even know existed. And I will say, Mike Carruth and Paul DePaw are a couple of those people. I don't know. Do you know who Paul DePaw is?
No.
Okay. He is so he is a track operator in Moline, Illinois. He has an outdoor track and an indoor track that races on concrete, and it is absolutely amazing. He is in his 30th season as a track operator. He loves
I
the
see
sport.
some. Okay, I see some of your interview. Long-haired guy,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Long-haired guy.
And this dude is next level when it comes to bringing kids in. And for a long time, he said his track was on the decline. And what he ended up doing was he's like, I bit the bullet and I decided to go for it and do league. And that's what sent them over the edge. And it went from having just a few riders to having such a big new rider pool. And so he called me after Halloween and he goes, Jay, our numbers were, what was it? 51 motos for their Halloween race, 217 for rider count, and just over $1,300 for their 50-50 giveaway.
Nice.
And so anyway, to answer your question, I'm not sure who I want to interview because I keep finding rock stars in the sport that I have no idea exist.
And that goes along with my interpretation is, I like talking to guys that don't have their own Wikipedia page, where you find the little nuggets of bitchiness in their stories, and you're like, wow, that was really cool. And that's what gets me going. And I'll share a funny story with you about my thing, where I recently talked to a gentleman by the name of Robert Cardoza. For those out there that have watched my interview with Robert, I had my modus operandi is friending everybody on Facebook and then cultivating so they know who I am through the months, and then I lower the boom on them. And I was friends with Robert for a couple months, whatever, and I just reached out to him and said, hey, I knew he was an older guy. I knew that he was first gen BMX, all of that stuff. And I go, hey, would you like to come on the podcast? He's like, sure, no problem. And then I find out about half an hour before I interview the guy that he was in ET. And I was like, oh God, I'm interviewing a guy that was a stunt rider for ET, and I never even told him that. He's probably knows he's gonna find out now, but I didn't even know that he was a stunt rider at ET until I interviewed him. And so this is the stuff that I love to deal with. When he was telling me stories about how him and Bob Harrow were making the first gen number plates in Bob Harrow's kitchen, and I was like, wow, dude, now this is why I do this, and so this is why I enjoy doing so much. And also what's cool is when you reach out to somebody, I'm so used to people ignoring me or telling me no or just not responding to me, that when I reach out to somebody and they say, dude, you made my day. Thank you I would love to come on and talk to BMX with you. That's what makes me excited. That gets me going. And I go, yeah, dude, I want to talk BMX to you. So that's a little bit from my perspective of when you find that one person or those people that actually do want to talk BMX with you, and that's surprising. Like Vance Patterson, when I reached out to Vance Patterson, I'm like, "There's no way this guy's gonna talk to me," and he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And he was apprehensive, saying, "No one's gonna care what I think." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Do you know who you are?" But anyways, that was cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is really fun being able to have some little conversations.
The only guy that I would want can't be interviewed, and that's Scott Breithaupt. That's it.
That's fair. That's fair. He is. Yeah, he's a hero in his own regard.
Top of the mountain for me.
Absolutely.
Growing up, we were SC. I mean, I finished my career on a JMC. Jim Melton's pretty high up there, but Scott Breithaupt was my messiah. We worshipped SC. Everything. We draw the SC logo on our notebooks with the wings, and this is back when it was BMX Innovations on the logo, and we'd argue about who could draw the best wings. It was great. We SC all day long, PK rippers, quad angles, flow flyers. One person I'd love to talk to was Scott Breithaupt, but it can't be done.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Nice.
That's cool.
What's your future for your channel? You're gonna keep interviewing? Do you have any special things going on, or I think you mentioned an interview that's coming down. Do you have anybody that's been recorded that hasn't been released yet that you want to promo or something?
Yeah, so 2 days from now, Olivia Armstrong, and she's a new school rider that anyway, she's a female pro. I think she's mid-20s, and absolutely killing it. She's doing some amazing things, just helping kids to be a part of the sport and come into to learn, and teaching them the skills that necessary to be competitive. And I love the way that she shares some of her stories of how she ended up making a career out of BMX, and then got an interview with Bob Osborne coming up, which is part 2 of that. So he talks about the history. We dive into the history of BMX and the history of BMX action, and talk in depth for, I think it's over well over an hour. And so he just talks about like the first BMX frames and the introduction of that. He talks about meeting Scott. He talks about Southern California. And so anyway, that was a really cool conversation too. That one comes out, what would it be? So 2 weeks from the 13th. So it would be the 27th. Is when that comes out, which is super cool because that's actually practice day for Grands. So I think it felt like it ties in pretty cool as we're talking about the history of BMX with the biggest race of the year. So
nice.
That's neat. And then I had mentioned Paul DePaw, so I figure now's as good a time as any to promo this. But January 4th, 2025, up in Moline, Illinois, Paul and I, it just became official, and we are I'm helping him to put on BMX World Series of Concrete at Rock Island Indoor BMX. So that is super cool. So anybody that wants to come out, there will be more information to follow, but the BMX World Series of Concrete, as a nod to the JEG races, it's going to be a ton of fun.
Well, what's a JEG race? The brand JEG?
Yeah, so JEG back because they did the concrete World Series the concrete BMX championships. Was it early 80s?
Did you say JAG or JEG?
JAG.
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 Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I thought you said JEG. I'm all, what's a JIG? JEG. Okay.
No.
JAG World Champion. I know who JAG is.
So
I had a JAG.
What would be? I think that would be late 70s, early 80s.
Yes. I had a 79 JAG, my first bike. So yes, for some reason there's a motocross brand called JEG.
Like JEG.
Yeah. They make like gas cans or something, I think.
Yeah, they might. But yeah,
Anyways.
we're throwing it back to a little bit of old school, and they've got the concrete track that will already be running that same weekend. It will be running a state qualifier and a Gold Cup race. And so we decided to put a world championship of concrete in there as well. And so I think Crit's working on the awards for it, and it's going to be a fun weekend.
Nice. Well, Jay, not Jag, Jay, I appreciate you, dude. I've already taken over an hour out of your time, out of your night. I appreciate it. I really do, sincerely. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, man. Now I know a little bit about the BMX Breakthrough podcast. And for those out there that are watching, that will watch in the future, I highly suggest that you go check out Jay's channel, support him, subscribe to his channel, and watch his videos. He's a good guy. Obviously, he's a much better ambassador for the sport than I am. So make sure that you support Jay in every way you can. Jay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
And for those that are watching, I want to thank you very much for watching the BMXers podcast. My name is Kevin Wilson. I'm a former 17 expert that's washed up, that used to ride for Maine Bikes. And I thank you for joining me. And that from now until next week, the track is now closed. Jay, you're a good man. Peace out, bro.
Take care.
Peace out, man.
Good talking to you.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.